Second Timothy chapter 4. Hot diggity. Finally, moving forward. All right, let's just read it. In the presence of God and of Christ Jesus, who will judge the living and the dead, and in view of his appearing in his kingdom, I give you this charge. Pause. It's as if Paul were saying, I can't emphasize this more. I mean, he starts in the presence of God. All right, that's big. And of Christ Jesus. All right, we got 2/3 of the Trinity here. Who, now, this is kind of an interesting sidebar. In the presence of God and of Christ Jesus, who will judge the living and the dead, there will be a time when Jesus will judge both the living and the dead. I believe that's going to be when he has brought time to an end. He's returned. He's done everything to wrap it up. I mean, and by it, I mean all of life. And when that happens, then he will judge. That's not a very popular theme. The theme is Jesus just wants to help you. He so wants you to succeed. Well, he does. He does love us. He loves me. And he wants me to succeed, but not on my terms. His terms of success are so often not ours. But, okay, he is the judge. He's not a judge. He is the judge. His final judgment. When I was a little kid, that used to scare the woo out of me. I'm going to have to stand before God, and Jesus is going to... I've told you this before. We had a girl in our youth group who she did... This was way back in the day where we had youth rallies. Frankly, I never got much out of it, although I didn't have to just sit around at home on a Sunday. So, and she would do this reading about how, you're at the judgment seat, and they show a movie of your entire life, and that's what the judgment will be. Oh, that scared me badly. Because there were things that went on in my mind and things that I had done that I didn't want anybody else to ever know about. But nope, well, it's all gonna be there. So you had better get rid of that negative stuff. You better be good, or you're gonna be so humiliated when they show the movie of your life. I'm firmly convinced that the origin of that is the idea that you've got to be good enough to be saved, or you've got to be good enough to stay saved, which is not a biblical idea. The biblical idea is simply you accept the grace of Christ on his terms, and then because of that you live in a peculiar way. But your peculiar life is not why you got saved or why you stay saved. It's about the grace of Christ. I have this sense that Jesus will judge the living and the dead, and over everything else, the overarching, overriding concept of judgment, his judgment on that day will be, did you accept me or not? I don't know that there's going to be any big vivid video. I don't think so. But Jesus is the final judge. And one of the things that I take, well, I don't know exactly how to phrase it, I take great comfort, pardon me, in, when did I eat that? Well, anyway, great comfort and confidence in the fact that he is a just judge, so he's not going to just look the other way. There will be a payback for all the evil that has taken place in all of time. That somehow is comforting, and that his grace for those who have embraced it, accepted it, have opened their heart and life to his grace, that is his first criteria for judging. All right, now that's pretty deep bunny trail, and a whole lot more can be said about it. There are books that deal entirely with the issue, and I'm not going to go any more deeply into that. But Jesus is the judge. And again, Paul writes, in the presence of God and of Christ Jesus, who will judge the living and the dead, and in view of his appearing and his kingdom. I think this is a present and future tense concept. In view of his presence, okay, well, his appearing. Well, his first appearing was in a stable in Bethlehem, in a barn, more likely a cave. When he was born to a virgin mother, Mary, and who I am positive would have been a very nervous and anxious earthly stepfather. We celebrate it every December 25th. But there will be a second appearance. And that is when he comes in the clouds as the redeeming, conquering king. He came as a helpless little baby the first time. But he also is coming as the redeeming, conquering, victorious king, champion. Well, I think Paul may have both of those ideas in mind. In view of his appearing, he came, and he will come again, and his kingdom. All right, his kingdom has already been established. I think it began at his resurrection. Then it became formally established on the day of Pentecost, the beginning of the church. I had a professor in Bible college who said God's kingdom is anywhere that men or women let him rule. I think that's generally true. I do also think, whether I let him rule or not, he is the king. There are times when I lose track of that. There are times when I think I'm the king. Bad idea. I mean, I can't even remember my phone number half the time. I shouldn't be king. But I sometimes live that way. And there are other times when, because of what's happening around me, what I can see and experience, that's not good. And I feel like I have no control over it. I think other people are king. And, well, that's also a bad idea. Because even if they can remember their phone number, they're not perfect. I don't need that kind of king because I already have a king. His name is Jesus, But in view of his appearing in his kingdom, now there's this beginning, and now we're living it out. We have for the last couple of thousand years. But his kingdom will come in a unique, almost indescribable way. John, the apostle, writes about it in the book of Revelation. He says, I saw a new heaven and a new earth. And he talks about the new Jerusalem coming down. And it's beyond what I can imagine, because he says it's 1,400 miles in length and width and height. Really? And it has a wall that's 200 feet, and scholars are a little bit vague on this. Translators are very, very vague. It's either 200 feet high or wide. That's the wall. 3 gates on each of the sides, each guarded by an angel, and each gate a single pearl. I don't think we're talking literally here. Could be, but it seems to me what John is trying to say is, you imagine the most extravagant, most breathtaking, expansive, huge, but that's the new Jerusalem. There won't be any need for a sun or a moon. We won't need lamps, because God himself will be the light. You can read all this for yourself in chapters 21 and 22 of the book of Revelation, and I highly recommend it, because that is the ultimate, the final destination of his kingdom. Okay, in view of all that, I mean, he has loaded it up as, that's like I triple dog dare you, right? I give you this charge. Now, a charge is not a recommendation. A charge is not an urging. What is a charge? It's a command. It's, here's your mission. And then he goes on in verse 2. Preach the word. Be prepared in season and out of season. Correct, rebuke, and encourage with great patience and careful instruction. That should be the first bullet point on every pastor's job description. And I think that is exactly what Paul is doing for Timothy. I don't think Timothy didn't know this already, but I think what Paul's doing is he is driving it home so that there can be no doubt in Timothy's mind. The next time when we get together, I'm going to come back to it and look at, so how does that apply to us who are not pastors? Because I think it does. Well, we'll do that next time. I'll see you then on Soul Care with Stevie Boy.